This episode is what I call a quickie. And I'd love to know if you like the shorter ones. So send me a message, DM me on social media if you are following me. And if you're not following me, please follow me. I'm not underscore your underscore average underscore grandma on Instagram. And I'm just not your average grandma on Facebook. So yeah, send me a direct message and let me know if you like the shorter episodes or you like the longer ones where I get more in depth and use examples and have bullet points in my head. But this is what I'll call a quickie. But it was something that I learned from Mel Robbins this past week. And it wasn't something that she taught or was trying to teach, but it's something that I learned. And it was because I was paying attention to what I was thinking. And I had a huge aha. And I thought, oh my gosh, I think a lot of people think this way. And it really changed how I think about the L word and receiving it. Because I say it pretty freely, although I don't say it to strangers. But that might change. But I don't like receiving it from strangers. And why? Why? So that's what I got to the bottom of. And that's what I decided to dig into and investigate, because I know that is not the state that I want to be in. I don't want to have qualifications around being loved. I would love for somebody to just come up to me and love me and expect the best in me. Why wouldn't we want that? Why would I have to say, oh, no, 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 you can't love me until you know all my idiosyncrasies? I have to earn it. Why can't by just being a human being? Because that's what love, unconditional love, soul love, universal love, how we were created, that's the place we should all live from. That's the place we should all show up from. That is the state of being that I desire, that I aspire towards. And so this episode is about me really having this breakthrough about, oh my gosh. And it just comes from really paying attention to what my thoughts were thinking. And I think I just did this episode because I think we need to do more of that. Just maintain this awareness of what's going on and questioning it. Why am I thinking that? Is that helping me? Or is that limiting me? And if it's limiting me, let's figure out a better way to think. Let's rewire the brain in that area, because you can rewire stuff and it's important. And no matter how old we get, the rewiring works and it's worth it. So listen in and see if you have similar thoughts about the L word when it comes from strangers. Okay, enjoy. Today's episode is going to be short, I think, although I always say that and it turns out to be long. But I want to share an awareness that I came to have this past week. And it was a real light bulb moment for me. And I thought, wow, this is something I should share because I think it's true for so many of us. And I thought it was such an interesting perspective because of my viewpoint. So here's what I mean. So first of all, I'm going to say I love Mel Robbins. So she is the person that gave me this awareness, although it was something that I learned on my own, but it was precipitated by something she said. So Mel Robbins, if you don't know Mel Robbins, she is a famous author. She is an amazing person, speaker. I first learned about her from her TED Talk, and she does a TED Talk. She wrote a book called The 5 Second Rule. She also wrote another book called The high five habit. And she just is really a great person. And what I love about her is that she's very vulnerable and she shares kind of like all her warts and even as they're happening. And you think somebody like her has all the answers when in fact she's a work in progress, like we all are. And so if you haven't seen or heard her TED talk, I'll put the link in the show notes, but it's really good. It was, I'm not sure she had written her 5 second rule book yet, but she, at the very end, she mentions the 5 second rule. So her TED talk isn't even about the 5 second rule. But she talks about the F word, and it's not the F word you think in it, but it's just a great. It's one of the best TED talks that I've heard. So I she started, she did a talk show. It came out right before the pandemic, and then it got canceled because I think the pandemic, they couldn't record it and they had to take a hiatus. But anyways, she was pretty devastated by it, and then she kind of did a reset. She did a whole life reset. But now she's got a #1 podcast. I'm on her newsletter, and I just love. It's one of the newsletters that, and I sign up for plenty of newsletters, and I'm always unsubscribing and then resubscribing. And if I see something, I'll subscribe, but then I don't stay a subscriber. But with her, I never unsubscribe, and I read every word because I love it. And the funny thing is, I haven't been listening to her podcast, but I did recently just listen to the first episode. Loved it. She's fantastic. One of the things that she does in her newsletter that I don't like. The only thing I don't like about Mel Robbins, I love everything about her. But one thing I don't like, she signs it, I love you. I love you, Lori. I believe in you, yada, yada. And I never really thought about it. I was just like, Mel, why do you have to say that? It just made me uncomfortable. Like I can't. Why does it? What somebody telling me they love me make me uncomfortable? Why does that trigger me? Why does that upset me? And it wasn't until I heard her podcast that had nothing to do with the "I love you" words. At the very end, she said, "If nobody's told you yet today, let me be the first to say I love you and I believe in you." And the funny thing is I tell my students I believe in them, and I do believe them with all my heart. And I do love them, but I don't tell them I love them. I don't even know if they know I love them, but I do. So what is it about the "I love you" words? And if I feel resistance to them, I'm wondering if you feel resistance to them. Why do we have to require something or that somebody knows something about us to love us? And that's what I started to realize as I listened to her say, "I love you" on the podcast. And it bothered me at the end. And I'm like, but I love Mel. I don't know Mel, but I love her. And if I saw her, I'd tell her I loved her. So why do I think she has to know me to love me? And so then it got me thinking about, yes, she says that in her email, and that I've had this discomfort with hearing that in the email. And I feel like I've had this qualification component to those words. You don't really love me. You don't know me. You have to know me to love me. And maybe if you know me, you won't love me. But isn't that the problem with this world today? Is that there isn't enough unconditional love from people. Don't you think that we should start out by loving people unconditionally? Don't you think we should start a relationship with love and not even knowing the person, expecting their best version to show up, believing that they are limitless, because we come here conceived in love, where our soul was formed by love. God is love. If you believe in God, the universe, source, we were created. Babies. Like, don't you love babies and little kids? And so why should we have some qualification That's our ego. That's our experiences. That's our life that has gotten in the way and given us scars and given us beliefs and really limits us. So it was quite an eye opening realization. And that is why we need to start by being aware of what thoughts, being the observer of our thoughts. And if we react with this judgment or this feeling that I don't like that, why did she do that? The first thing we should do is not put it on the other person. We should put it on us to get to the bottom of why we thought that. Why am I uncomfortable with Mel Robbins saying, I love you? Genuinely. And what she does for the world that I've observed is help people, significantly help people. So if she loves me, why can't I receive that? I should be grateful for that message. That should put a skip in my step. Instead, I'm like, oh, why is she saying that to me? She doesn't mean it. Well, who am I to say that? I think she does mean it. And so I am only limiting myself from the love that I am getting. And it doesn't have to be somebody who knows me because they are believing in the best in me. They are seeing the best in me, which I can't even see for myself. That's what we do. Isn't that crazy? So that was all I wanted to say today was that I had this huge realization. And if there's something triggering you that somebody says and you're like, well, they don't know. How do they know that? How do they believe that? What is it in you? What are you making that mean about you? And I promise if you get my newsletter, I will not start saying I love you. I haven't gotten there yet. But I see what she's doing because I think with me, if I start saying I love you, it's not necessarily something that came naturally to me. It's something that I got from somebody else, and I want it to all be natural. But I do say I believe in you because I do believe in you, and you are capable of anything, and you are loved. You are loved. You came here with love. And what I'm thinking is that, and again, here we get in our thinking mind, right? I'm thinking if I say or sign my emails with I love you, then the people who are on my email list are going to think the same thing that I thought. So here I am worried about what other people are thinking, right? So heck, maybe I just decide in this moment I'll start saying I love you. Release that. Release the belief that you have to have qualifications around the love word because you don't. I truly, in my deepest heart and soul, believe that we all are lovable and we all deserve to be loved. And so that's my message for you. I love you, and I can say it, and I love me too. And I think that's the important thing. We have to love ourselves and be okay with hearing it from others. Right. And maybe, just maybe, as I'm processing this live, I'll end my next newsletter with I love you and the story behind it, why I started it, why I'm saying it now. And I think that's the great thing about what Mel does and what we can all do from listening to people like Mel is that let her be the role model for us. Because like I said, there's not enough love in the world. And the more we spread it, the better off the world's going to be. So go spread it. And thanks for listening. Thank you so much for tuning into the Living Your Spark Second Half podcast. If you'd like to watch my guest interviews, you can find the video version of this podcast on my Not Your Average Grandma YouTube channel. Also, you can check out what I have going on at the moment by going to my website at notyouraveragegrandma.com or find me on Instagram or Facebook at notyouraveragegrandma. If you like this episode, please mention it to a friend and don't forget to leave a review so I know the topics you like best and can bring you more of that content in upcoming episodes. Last but not least, remember to always listen to that inner voice that will never steer you wrong and make living from the most sparked place possible your biggest priority. When we do that, we make the world a better place.